So this Carolina Panthers franchise has had a ton of transition this offseason, from a new general manager to a new quarterback in Sam Darnold, who came to this team via trade. And it seems like this year is pretty much a put up or shut up year, and you got to prove yourself from the top down, from ownership with David Tepper all the way down to the last guy on the roster, Joey Sly, who may be battling for his own position. And of course, J.J. Jansen, the long snapper, seems to have some competition. So it's a put up or shut up year for pretty much everybody in this Panthers organization. But in this video today, we're going to talk about which players have the most to prove going into this 2021 season. But before we get into all that, let me introduce myself. My name is Aaron Duncan, here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. I start off every video by saying, "What up, dude?" And here on Necessary Bluntness, I give recap and analysis of the NFL. In particular, I show a little extra love to the Carolina Panthers. You already know how it goes. So if you want to see more videos about the Carolina Panthers, the NFL, from live streams, podcasts, and videos and analysis like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and the bell icon. The bell icon is going to make sure you get notifications every time I drop a video. That way you don't miss a thing, and you can stay up all to date on all these good conversations that we're having leading up to the year and all the coverage that I give. So if you don't want to miss anything, you got to subscribe, you got to hit the bell icon. And one more thing that doesn't really cost you a thing is to give this video a thumbs up, because it really helps me out in the algorithm and lets YouTube know that you like the video, and that he'll put it out to more other viewers that may be interested in stuff like this. So like the video, please. So I want to get you guys' opinion first before we get into it. Let me know down below in the comments, who do you think has the most to prove on this Panthers team? Don't give me the obvious, like Sam Darnold and stuff like that. Don't give me them. Let me know down below in the comments who you think has the most to prove that we may not be thinking of. But as I said before, I'm going to skip over the obvious, because it's obvious Sam Darnold has a lot to prove. You know what I'm saying? Between the quarterback position and the left tackle position on his roster, the two question marks, they have to prove themselves. And that could be the make or break for this team. But in particular, Sam Darnold, he was a top flight pick. And a lot of people are calling him a draft bust. But a lot of people are saying that, hey, he was just playing for the Jets and Adam Gase, and put him in any kind of relatively decent system and organization, he'll probably thrive. And that's exactly what the coaching staff and the general management are banking on. So there's a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold to prove himself to be worthy of that top flight pick that he was coming out of the draft just a few years ago. So obviously Sam Darnold has a lot to prove, but we're not going to count him. My number one guy with the most to prove, not really number one, but no particular order, is Christian McCaffrey. And you might be saying, Christian McCaffrey, what does he have to prove? He's established himself as a top flight running back in his league, and arguably the best. He had a 1,000-yard season. He had over 100 receptions in the season multiple times. What does he have to prove? And I get that, because Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion, when healthy, is the best running back in the league. But you know how it is in this game. There's recency bias. And with Christian McCaffrey coming off of an injury-prone season, he's going to have to prove that he can carry the load. And those same question marks about him being able to be durable enough were there when he was in college. And now people have forgotten how good he is because he's been gone for a while. They're saying Derrick Henry is the best. And Christian McCaffrey missed extended period of time for injuries for really the first time in his career. Yeah, he's been hurt before, obviously, but he's been playing 90% plus of the snaps since he's been a Panther. And going back to his days in Stanford and in high school, he doesn't really miss time at all. So he's going to have to come back and prove that, okay, hey, that was just a fluke season. Yeah, with some bumps and bruises, but I'm still that guy. He also has a lot to prove, because when he got that check, he became the highest paid running back in NFL history. And I was an advocate of him getting paid, because he does so much in the receiving game and the running game. But a lot of fans are like, that's the cardinal rule. Don't pay a running back. Don't pay a running back. And as soon as Christian McCaffrey got hurt and missed that time, they were like, see, this is why you don't pay a running back. So Christian McCaffrey has to prove that he is worth that high dollar amount that he's getting paid from the Carolina Panthers. I believe he's a franchise guy on this team. However, he has to go out and prove that to the fans, to himself, to the organization, and to the whole NFL that he is still that guy. So Christian McCaffrey has a lot to prove. Now, the second guy with the most to prove on my list is DJ Moore. Now, DJ Moore coming out was drafted to be a number one wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, and there's a lot of hoopla and controversy because they had a choice between taking DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley. The Panthers decided to go with DJ Moore because of his run after catch ability and his playmaking ability with the ball in his hands, versus Calvin Ridley, who's a more polished wide receiver, who's going to run the route tree, sharper routes. He's going to be just a pure, more polished wide receiver. These guys' production have been kind of neck and neck, but DJ Moore still seems to have a lot of untapped potential. Yes, he's had a 1,000-yard season in back-to-back years. However, he hasn't really had a great quarterback that's been able to fully maximize his capability, especially in particular stretching the ball down the field. Yes, we know what he can do when it comes to putting the ball in his hands and doing yards after catch and getting that yak. However, we want to see DJ Moore catch some deep passes because he caught a lot of underthrown balls and contested catches because of Teddy Bridgewater's lack of arm strength. But Sam Darnold doesn't seem to have a lack of arm strength, even though he is just as inconsistent as some of the other quarterbacks that DJ Moore has had. Heck, DJ Moore hasn't had really consistent quarterback play as long as I can remember, even going back to Maryland. So it's going to be up to DJ to see what he can do. Obviously, this is a contract year, and I have no doubt they'll extend him, but he still needs to prove to the Carolina Panthers that he is that number one guy. Yes, they have Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson is going to be a free agent after this season. So it may or may not be bringing Robbie back. So they're going to really need to feel good about DJ Moore being that number one guy. He needs to step up and prove that. Now, he started pretty slow last season, and it seemed like him and Teddy Bridgewater could never get on the same page. But nevertheless, if they're paying you to be the number one guy like they expect to probably do, we need you to make things happen regardless. You see guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Mike Evans still make plays with suspect quarterbacks at times. So when you're a bona fide wide receiver, number one wide receiver, it doesn't matter who's slinging that rock to you. Yes, you can't control what you can control. However, you still have to be able to make certain plays in certain situations, and you have to be dependable and a playmaker regardless of the circumstances. So if they're going to pay him like a number one wide receiver, he needs to perform like one. So we're going to be looking to DJ Moore to prove himself that he's fully capable of being that. To me, the two places he can improve the most, to prove that he can run crisp routes and get more touchdowns. Yes, he gets yards in the back-to-back 1,000-yard years, but he needs to get in the end zone. I think that's the two things that separated Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore is those touchdowns. So we'll see what happens going forward, but the pressure's on DJ. The third guy on this list with the most to prove is Donte Jackson, the cornerback. Now, we know what Donte is. Donte is going into a contract year also, but him getting an extension is as much of a sure thing as DJ Moore? Probably not in my opinion, because this guy, he's fast, he's a playmaker, he's confident, he's swaggy. You know what I'm saying? He plays with that moxie and that swag. You know how Donte Jackson does when he's on that field. He likes to talk that talk. However, Donte Jackson has a problem staying on the field because his health. Whether it's a toe injury, a hamstring, or whatever, Donte Jackson has just not been able to be on the field consistently enough to get the most out of him when it comes to that playmaking ability that he has. So the thing that he has to prove the most is that he can play a full slate of a season. If they're going to pay him long-term money to be a cornerback, he needs to be able to prove he can stay healthy. Now, with an extra game added to be 17-game schedule, it's going to be even harder for Donte Jackson to play a full season. However, the pressure is on him to prove they can do that if he wants to get that contract and be that guy for the Carolina Panthers. Now, there's a couple things around these circumstances. Obviously, we drafted J.C. Horn, the number 8 pick. That's taking a lot of pressure off of Donte. One, because he doesn't have to guard the primary wide receiver every time, and they can probably play matchup because Donte's more of a smaller speed guy, while JC is a longer, big-body cornerback that can be physical with other big-body wide receivers in this division. However, it also puts pressure on Donte because now that they have another cornerback, they have a long-term answer for what they think, at least, with J.C. Horn. And Donte Jackson may be a little bit more expendable if he can't stay healthy and he can't stay on the field. So we need to see if Donte can prove that he can stay healthy and be that playmaker we know he can be. We know his rookie season, he had a ton of interceptions and arguably made a case to have Defensive Rookie of the Year. So we know when he's on the field what he can do. He just needs to be consistent on the field and stay healthy and be able to be on the field and be available. The best ability is availability. It doesn't matter if you can run a 4.2, you can catch 7 interceptions in the season or break up all these passes. If you can't stay healthy, you can't help the team win. Last but not least, and maybe the guy who wants some of the most approved, is Hassan Reddick, the free agent signing from the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Hassan Reddick, he didn't get a contract extension from the Arizona Cardinals, which was pretty weird because this guy had double-digit sacks last year. However, this was his first breakout year because he had been playing out of position until last year. He has a lot to prove. He needs to prove that he can be a double-digit sack guy consistently because he got half of those double-digit sacks in one game. And that's nothing to water down on because he has 6 sacks in a game. That's unheard of. That is unheard of. but he needs to show that he can be that sack artist. And the pressure is on him because he needs to prove that he can be a capable guy that can take attention away from Brian Burns. Brian Burns is really our only pass rusher the past few years, and he gets double teamed, and he can't always be as effective as he can be. You know, Brian Burns is going to win a lot of times one-on-one, but being that he's the only sack artist, he gets double teamed. He gets chipped. They put tight ends on his side. So Hassan Reddick needs to be a force off that other side. So if they double team Brian Burns, he needs to be able to take advantage. And he needs to be able to be effective enough that they can't double Brian Burns and let Brian Burns wreak havoc too. So there's a lot of pressure on Hassan Reddick. And now that he's in with his old coaches with Matt Rule and Phil Snow from the college and playing in the proper position at edge rusher, we want to see him excel and capitalize and build on what he did last year. Now, like I said, that was his first year finally being back in his position that he feels comfortable with in the NFL. So we want to see production over a long span of time, not just one season or one game where you piling on the stats. So Hassan Reddick's going to have some pressure on him to really perform because they signed him to a shorter term deal, and I think he understands that it's a prove-it deal and he has a lot to prove because even though he's with a system that he could probably excel in, he still has to show that he can do it on a consistent basis. So I'll be looking forward to see Hassan Reddick's impact on this defense. And if Hassan Reddick can emerge and prove himself, look out, man. This defense is going to be scary. In particular, this defensive line is going to wreak havoc and disrupt a lot of passes in this division and in the NFL. So I'll be looking forward to that. But you guys let me know down below in the comments, who did I miss? Who else has something to prove? I noticed, like I said, there's a lot of young guys on this team that have to show what they're made of. Who else has the most to prove on this team? Was it Joe? Is it Joey Sly? You know what I'm saying? Is it Ian Thomas? Let me know down below in the comments. Who do you think has the most to prove, and will they live up to that hype? And let me know what you think about the guys that I put on my list, and do you agree with me that these guys have a lot to prove? So let me know how you feel down below in the comments. But without further ado, man, I'm Aaron Duncan here, signing off for the Necessary Blunt and Sports Talk. I'll see you next time. Peace.